Hey, my name's Simon Delaney. I'm going to run through a lead distribution buyer's guide, which is some commonly asked questions around lead distribution specifically for buyers. Here goes. So, lead distribution software is typically used in two ways. So, one, it's used by lead generation companies where they're generating leads on a form or somewhere else. It could be over the telephone, but it consists of data. And that data goes into a lead distribution platform. And the lead distribution platform will do things like verify the lead, qualify the lead, track the source where the lead is coming from, run suppressions and dedupe and things like that against it, and then deliver the lead to the buyer of the lead. And that can happen via API, it could happen via email or SMS, or it could be sent on the CSV, or the buyer can log in and grab the data. The other way it works, lead distribution is used by the buyers of leads as a control mechanism that stops bad leads going into their CRM or their dialer or their database or email sending platform. So they'll do things like verify, qualify the lead, dedupe it against their current customers or prospects, suppress any leads that they don't want, and then deliver it again via API or FTP or CSV into another system. And buyers will also use it to distribute to multiple franchises. So let's imagine you had 3 different call centers and leads coming in, and you wanted to deliver them in a round robin fashion to different call centers. Lead distribution systems handle that as well. So if you're a lead generator, you will be doing lead distribution in one fashion or another. It is most rudimentary level. You'll be sending leads out on a spreadsheet or plonking them in an email or something like that. But the moment you get any sort of volume or want to get any sort of sophistication behind it, you have to have lead distribution software because it automates the entire processing of receiving the lead and then delivering it to the right client in order to you to monetize that lead effectively. If you're a buyer of the lead, if you're buying leads in any sort of volume, you need to have some sort of protection layer before leads hit your CRM or hit your dialer or database. So in this sense, it acts more like a bit of middleware that receives the lead from lead generator or any source that you're generating or buying leads from, filters all the bad stuff out that you don't want, and then delivers perfectly good or clean leads directly to your dialer, CRM, or database. The key features of lead distribution software are you need a way to receive leads in, and this could be via API delivered straight into the lead distribution software. It could be via a CSV that's dragged and dropped in-app onto the lead distribution software, or it could be an FTP upload that will drop the data straight onto the lead distribution software. Once it's in there, you need to be able to verify the lead. So is the email address live? Is the telephone number live? Is it any salacious names? Is the address correct? Are all the details that you're receiving in the lead correct and that person contactable? You need to be able to track the source of the data at a granular level. So which channel did it come from? Which sub-supplier did it come from? Which sub-source did it come from? The lead distribution system will handle all of that. You then need to be able to add any rules. So if you can only buy or sell to leads in a particular criteria, that could be a gender, it could be a geolocation, it could be a salary over a certain amount, or a house that's valued over a certain amount. A lead distribution software will handle all those rules and reject leads that you can't sell to. You will then be able to add things like deduplication and do that at a really granular level, so you can decide your own deduplication rules. You'll be able to do things like add caps, which mean you can control the amount of leads that come into the lead distribution software from every single source that match particular criteria. Because then what you can do is stop any volume of leads that you don't want at the lead distribution level before it either goes out to a buyer of the leads, or if you are the buyer, into the CRM. You then can suppress leads. You can do things like send emails and SMS through the system. But the key thing is then having the ability to deliver leads to an external source, so whether that's a CRM, a dialer, the multiple franchise, or anything else. And you should be able to do this in multiple different ways. So the straightforward way is just an API out that just said lead comes in, it goes out. Another way is a ping tree, which would mean it decides which API to deliver the lead to based on the criteria of the lead. Another way is ping post, which is a auction-based bidding. So a lead comes in, you send a snippet to multiple different places, and they return a value that they would pay for that lead. You should be able to send CSVs out. You should be able to send to FTPs. You should be able to have people be able to log in and grab data. So the idea is a sort of entire ecosystem that controls the entire receiving of data and output of data and all the filters and rules and everything else in between. So I think there are several things. So one is it going to do everything that you require? Is it going to take leads in? Can you track the sources coming from? Can you verify all the data? Can you build the rules, the DG suppression, send emails, SMS, have suppliers log in, have any stakeholders or clients log in? So can all interested parties log in and do everything? Then there's ease of use. I mean, this is a massive thing, right? So this is something actually that should probably be highlighted in B2B versus B2C. In B2B, you would always have like a marketing operations person that learns the software at a really deep level, understands it perfectly, and they're usually going to use it over a long period of time, minimum of a year. Whereas in B2C, everything is very fast paced. It tends to be much more sort of sales led. So smaller companies won't have anyone that particularly knows technology. So they either have to pay for someone else to manage it, or they sort of struggle through it. So ease of use is always helpful in that instance. The price band that you're looking to work within, that usually goes back to features and the quality of the software. But another one is the sort of security behind it. How secure is your data really being held? What are the type of companies that particularly use that software? Because from that you can typically get an idea of the kind of sign-offs they've had to go through in terms of info security and the terms that are being signed up to and things. The automation behind it all, can you perfectly automate absolutely everything? And are there any sort of scenarios that you can think of that are potentially like an outlier in terms of your scenario that you'd want that software to handle? Questions to ask on lead distribution software demos. I think what you really have to ask, I've done a lot of lead distribution software demos, probably, I don't know, thousands, I would say. You need to go through what your scenario is. So your typical scenario that you want to cover. That's really what you need to ask. I could go through, does the system do this? Does it do that? Whatever. But ultimately, this comes down to your use of it. So if you don't cover your exact scenario in the software demo, and I've had this before, I've actually had it quite a few times. I've gone through and said, have you covered absolutely everything that you need to know? Is there anything, in your setup or scenario that's not being covered? And they've gone, no, it's absolutely perfect. They take a license of the software and then suddenly, oh, by the way, we want this thing to shoot off to Mars when I press this button and come back with an alien. And you're like, well, why don't you just tell us that when we did the software demo? I could have told you that isn't possible. So 100% the best tip is get your most complicated scenario and probably your most usual scenario, and run through both scenarios on the software demo and clarify what can and can't be done, because from there you'll understand whether obviously you can either use the software or whether you're going to need another system to handle elements of it, or whether it's going to meet your exact expectations.